There's a clicker up here. This working? Are we good? Oh, slides aren't in yet? Okay. No? Hey, you are Renielle. How about you? Awesome. Come on up. Is that you have the So how are you doing?
I'm so nervous.
Why?
I don't know.
This is just gonna talk.
I know.
What? I
Social
checked out your
anxiety.
website.
Oh, did you?
It
Thank
is
you.
fire.
Thank you.
You don't look nervous on that website at all.
I mean,
You look super confident on there.
I feel like my imposter syndrome kicks in when I have events like this, so I always have to reevaluate myself constantly.
Where are you originally from?
Originally New York, and then I grew up in Jersey, and then now I'm in Delaware. Yeah. So kind of a mix around a little bit.
Very cool. Northeast.
How about you? Where are you from?
I'm originally from Ohio.
Okay.
I've
Ohio.
lived everywhere.
Oh wow.
And I live in St. Louis now.
Okay. Gotcha.
It's time to move.
Time to move again? Getting a little too comfortable?
5 years, finally then it's time to roll out after that.
I think I'm gonna write down I had my slides, but I need to see them up close and personal.
Okay.
Just write them down real quick.
So your shoot is shooting up on the monitor. For some reason, we didn't have ours loaded to the drive in. So they don't have it loaded up yet.
Okay,
But they will.
gotcha. Okay.
So you almost had some trouble getting in?
Yeah, so my Army unit, they almost didn't want to pay for me to get here. They didn't want to authorize the orders, and Major Zimmerman, like, secured all of this months ago. So there was no reason as to why it wouldn't have gone authorized. The order should have been processed, but they decided to do everything last minute, literally yesterday. We were fighting. It was like a huge fight, and the email changed back and forth. I was just watching the whole thing unfold. I'm like, I guess I'm here. What is gonna happen? I'm already packed up. My flight's already booked. I'm not sure what to do.
Now that's not like military.
It's really not. But I guess somebody really didn't want me to come on the ship.
Wow. So you had a hater somewhere. Mm-hmm. Hateration. Come on, hate doesn't exist in the military. All for one and one for all.
One for all. We all bleed green. And which branch did you serve in?
I did.
Oh, you did. Oh, I swore you served. You sounded so military, like when we had the Zoom call.
Really?
Yeah.
I did?
Yeah, of course. That's why I was like, he knows what he's talking about. You know, this man is on it. Retired and everything.
Oh shit. Forgot about that.
Oof, it's really warm in here.
I was just saying it's cool outside, but it is a little warmer up here with the lights on.
Yeah.
We are right on time to start. Late.
Yeah, because there's still a lot of people outside.
Did you get the slides? All right, cool.
Yeah.
What's up, man? Yeah. I got a PowerPoint. Can I send it to? Yeah. Send it to whom? Can I email it to one of these guys? Okay. Didn't I send you the PowerPoint too? I think I sent you both, didn't I? Did I only send you PDF? But I thought I sent you both. I didn't send you both? Ah, crap. My bad. I just asked them, did they want me to email them? So I figured they might have a problem. I thought I sent Eric a PDF too. Let's see. Huntington. Man, this thing is boring. Yes. PowerPoint, right? Okay.
Renielle.
Rennie,
Nice to meet you. You can call me Rennie though.
would you like
Of course, absolutely.
scan? Hey man, I'm looking for Mary. Where's Mary? I don't see her. Did you? Women of color. Here it is. Let's make sure I got the slides with any else slides in there. Yep, I got yours too. That's that's a hard drive. I'm just gonna save it now. You want it in Friday seminars? No, just leave it right on top. Okay. There you go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session this morning. It's so good to see all these smiling faces. Give us just a few minutes. Technical difficulties happen. They're getting our slides loaded up, so we'll get started in a few minutes. Yes, absolutely. Don't need that if they got the slides. I'm on the shuttle. Oh, no. She's on the shuttle. Good morning, everyone. Oh, come on. Good morning, everyone. There we go. That's much better. You are in the right place. The best session of the entire conference. Communication strategies for engaging highly sensitive people. Pardon us for the technical difficulties, and we do have another panelist who got stuck on the shuttle, so she'll be here in just a moment. But I do have some housekeeping notes. Does everyone have the app? Everybody's got the app? Yes, I can skip. Oh, shoot. See, we always got one. There you go. Anybody else need help with the app? Really? Anybody have trouble with the app? Do you have an iPhone? Okay, well, I was going to give you a hard time if you had an iPhone, but if you got an Android, it should work. Career Communications Group in the Play Store? Yeah. Yeah, okay. All right. I have a few housekeeping notes. Everyone scan their badge. Hopefully you all scanned your badge. That way you get your CPU credits. And please do not forget to complete the survey. I believe ours. You didn't scan? When you came in, we got a scanner right there. You came in the wrong door. She'll scan you. Okay, you definitely want to get your credits if you need those. And remember to stay in touch with the Women of Color Conference on Twitter, now called X, thanks to Mr. Musk. And there's also a Facebook page. Okay. Looking for our other panelists, trying to give her a minute. I don't tap dance, and my jokes are awful. I tell serious dad jokes, so you don't want to hear any of those. But thank you all for being here. Really, really excited about this topic. I love coming to Women of Color, and I've done it for around 10 or so years, and very excited about this topic. I'm sure all of us know someone who is highly sensitive, and we're going to get into that subject today. Our learning objective is to discover effective methods for managing and supporting highly sensitive employees in the workplace. I am Kendall Norris. I'll be your moderator. You can read that lengthy bio. It just says that I'm old and have been around a whole lot of places and a whole lot of, no, seriously, my background is in technology. I started as a coder a long time ago when they still had key punch cards and IBM mainframes. So I've been around that long and seen the entire evolution of technology, and it took me all around the world and did some wonderful things, and met with some wonderful people, worked for and worked with and led people in different countries, different languages. I speak 3 languages, English, of course, Spanish, and Portuguese. My goal is 7 fluently, currently working on French. So if any French speakers, man, I need help. It is hard. French is just way too hard. And have worked with some highly sensitive people, even though I didn't know that the NOMER was out there until recently. Our other panelist who is on the shuttle and will be here shortly is Mary Simmons. I'll let her introduce herself. But as you see, we have Sergeant Renielle Campbell here, and very nice to meet you. Just this week we met.
Likewise.
And she's got a wonderful story, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renielle Campbell. Please feel free to call me Rennie. I'm 24 years old. I'm a United States Army Drill Sergeant for the Reserves. I've been serving for the last 6.5 years. I'm also a former Miss Pennsylvania Earth USA. I love pageantry. I love womanhood, sistership, all of the bells and whistles that come with it. I'm also an MBA candidate at Penn State,
and I recently graduated from Temple University with my bachelor's degree in health studies. Okay, so we're gonna get right on into it. So I wanted to curate my slides based off of a few bullet points, and I was just gonna talk through everything. So the first one being growing up a sensitive person, from having middle child syndrome to being a child of immigrants, being bullied, and personal insecurity. So all of these different factors, all of your background, what your history is, it really determines what kind of person you're gonna grow up to be. Now, my background, I'm a middle child. I have two sisters. I'm wedged right in between them. I'm a child of immigrants. Both of my parents are from Guyana, South America. So just having that experience of growing up as a first-generation American and still having that cultural background from my parents was definitely an experience that a lot of people can relate to, but at the same time, not too many Americans could relate to at the same time. So it was a little different, and that added to my sensitivity levels. Also being bullied. So middle school, high school was really rough for me growing up. You could not pay me enough to go back and do high school all over again. And I know a lot of you probably feel the same way. And that definitely added to my sensitivity levels. The next point being joining the Army and starting my career. I joined the Army at 17 years old, right after high school. My goal was to go to college, and I applied to 9 different universities and colleges right around the tri-state area, and I got accepted into all of them. The only thing was that I didn't have enough money to go to my dream school, and I wasn't gonna take no for an answer. I wasn't gonna let my financial insecurities get the best of me. So I decided to join the military, and I thought it was the best option at the time. And I got my financial aid to go, I got my scholarships from the Army, and it provided me the opportunity to go to school. And the biggest point I wanna take from this bullet is that being financially insecure, having a family that wasn't able to give us everything that we wanted, but everything that we needed, added to that sensitivity levels, especially now. I'm very particular about my finances and what I want to do, so that's something that you got to take into consideration when you're working with your employees, or when I'm working with my soldiers that are lower ranking than me. I have to take into consideration finances. That's a big thing, especially considering that I have that experience. The next one that I want to bring up is imposter syndrome. I know all of us at some point have this or are currently dealing with it, and I know I'm a big one for that. This morning when I woke up, I was thinking to myself, how am I gonna go into a room full of generals and captains, just being a sergeant and talking to them, or amazing men and women who are top of the chain in corporate America, somewhere that I wanna be at some point, and I'm feeling anxious. Even just being up here, I'm feeling proud, but I'm also feeling very anxious. And I feel like that's the balance that you need in order to feel like a human being, to feel like you can talk to other people and have them understand you. And that adds to my sensitivity. And I encourage you, when you're working with your employees, it doesn't matter who you are at the point you are in your life or where your employees are at their point in their life. You're at some point going to feel that you don't belong there, or that they might feel like they might not belong there, because I know I feel that sometimes. So what I do is take a step back, reevaluate the situation, remind myself that I am meant to be here. I know that my qualifications have put me in this position. My experience has put me in this position. So it doesn't matter if that imposter syndrome is getting to you. Just remember, you got here and you were put there for a reason. And that pretty much closes out my first section of my slides.
Okay. Mary Simmons made it in the room. Thank you so much. We'll go back a couple of slides, and Mary can introduce herself. Welcome, Mary.
Good morning, everyone. Mary Simmons. I am a strategic planning manager at Collins Aerospace, RTX company now, and I work in Rockford, Illinois. In my role, I primarily work with different customer solutions just to help our value stream deliver programs that meet our customer needs on time and also resolve issues with them. I have a bachelor's and master's degree in electrical engineering, and I nervously decided to pursue my MBA. So I am currently enrolled in the Indiana University at Bloomington MBA program. Outside of work, I enjoy dancing, networking, and traveling. Most recently, I went to Rotan, Cuba, and Jamaica all in 1 year. Let me see, what else did I want to highlight here? And I enjoy spending time with my family. The thing I most enjoy is projects and planning. So that's my primary job, and then that passion also spills over into what I actually do in the community. I like to focus on organizational execution, leading projects for different things, and our employee resource groups, as well as in various organizations that I support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. We're going to go ahead and dive into the subject. We have a nice sized group here, so I really like to make these kinds of sessions interactive. So we'll reserve some time at the end for questions. But if you have something that you want to interject while we're talking, please feel free. That makes a much more rigorous discussion. So, highly sensitive people. I bet you all didn't know that was a thing. So in 1995-ish, I think Miss Aaron's book came out in 97. A psychologist, Elaine Aron, coined the term highly sensitive people. I don't like acronyms, but they call it HSP. So if you Google, there we go, got a couple of Googlers already. If you Google HSP or highly sensitive people, all kinds of articles and information will come up. But it is a discovery that happened that there are neurological differences in certain people that cause them to be highly sensitive to environmental, internal, and external stimuli. Approximately 15 to 20% of the population. That's a lot. So there's probably some highly sensitive people in this room, or you interact with them. My mom, I think she was a highly sensitive person. When I was a kid, we loved to watch Westerns. Me and my mother both loved to watch Westerns. And then at the end, you know, the guy wearing the black hat, the bad guy, he's killed like 15 or 20 people. They finally hang him. And my mom's crying because the bad guy got killed. And I'm like, Mom, what are you crying for? They didn't have to do him like that. Really, crying over the bad guy getting killed. They have a deeper central nervous system sensitivity. That's part of the personality trait, or what contributes to the personality trait of highly sensitive people. And no one here is a psychologist, so this will be an anecdotal discussion about the subject. But from a neurological standpoint, their sensory processing is very sensitive, right? We process things every day. And it's estimated that most folks process anywhere from 100 to 200 different things per day on average. And it depends on what you do in your daily life. Highly sensitive people process over 1,000 things every day, and they internalize them in a very deep manner. Increased emotional sensitivity, as like my mom crying over the bad guys, right? Strong reactions to external and internal stimuli, and lead a complex inner life. So lots of inner reflection happens with highly sensitive people. I see a couple of head nods, so probably have some in the room. Heightened empathy, and oftentimes requires periods of seclusion. It may sound a little bit like an introvert, but it's slightly different in that they have to kind of recharge by going into seclusion, going within, and then processing and getting things worked through, and then can interact more with others. And an extreme level of attempting to avoid distressing situations. So processing stressful situations are not very easy for highly sensitive people who have this neurological trait. So Mary alluded to her background in project management. So I'm gonna come to you first, Mary, because as a project manager, and I'm a PMP too, I've run PMOs, I'm been a project manager for a long time. And as the project manager, success and failure is on your shoulders. And everybody is your stakeholder, and everybody thinks they're your boss. So you have had an opportunity of, obviously, I'm sure, interacting with highly sensitive people, and sometimes it's usually the stakeholders that want your project done the most. So share with me some examples and kind of how you have managed those and handled those situations.
Thank you. So definitely with project leadership, I feel like a huge part of the role is actually learning how to engage with people. You have to influence people to be successful, as well as with the stakeholders, manage their expectations of how well the project is progressing and what you may need from them. One example I would like to highlight is I actually had someone on the team who at the time, I would have never used the term highly sensitive. But in hindsight, I think a lot of that was at play. So one, whenever they would request something from someone, they would just say, I need X. No context of how it helps the bigger program or any type of timeline. But by the end of the day, they didn't receive a response, and they were mad at the world and upset with me for expecting them to have progressed the project further. So there, I had to work with them to understand that people need a little bit more from them in order to be successful. But as that situation progressed, I recall needing to have like a one-on-one with them, because their emotions around maybe not getting what they needed timely actually resulted in them shipping something that as a team we had agreed was not ready to be shipped. But that was kind of their way of saying, you know, I'm kind of fed up, I'm not getting the support I need, you know, I'm just gonna ship it. I recall having, I knew that I needed to address it, so that's one thing. Even when it comes to highly sensitive individuals, you cannot ignore behaviors, like it has to be addressed. My first step was to definitely make sure that I identified someone else that can be in the room with me when I had that conversation. Because one, I also want to make sure that I'm, you know, kind of being impartial, right? Like I'm still being fair and not just trying to punish the individual. During the conversation, it got personal, right? So they were no longer maybe discussing the challenges they needed with the support on the project, but saying, I don't like you. Yes. I sat just as patiently as I'm sitting with you all. I allowed them the space to have their emotions, and I honestly didn't take it personally. My response when they finished their tirade was, okay, I understand that you're having a moment, but we still need to get this project delivered successfully, and I need you to think about how we can do that. So even with that, I felt like I acknowledged how they were feeling, but I still reiterated the expectations of them for leading the project and helping us to be successful. That also gave them an opportunity to maybe make recommendations to myself or to other leadership on what specific type of support they would need. So that's just one example of really needing to address the behavior, but also reevaluating how I actually approach the individual. Later on, that person ended up deciding to resign. They personally just kind of felt like, I mean, their response was you know, they're just tired of the place, but I do think they had a lot of these highly sensitive situations with their emotions that impacted their ability to do their job just based upon what they said. But the point is, we still need to address it and be willing to reconsider how we approach it, right?
Thank you, Mary. Now, Renielle is a drill sergeant. So some of you are probably wondering, how on earth does a drill sergeant deal with highly sensitive people? So Renielle, how on earth does a drill sergeant deal with highly sensitive people? In your position, I think of drill sergeants as someone who doesn't care about my feelings at all. It's just get up, do what I say, go where I go, march where I say, eat when I say eat, and things like that. How do you manage it? I heard somebody say, oh yeah, that's the whole army?
Oh,
That's the old army? It's a newer and different army? Really?
yes.
Tell us, Renielle, please. I want to hear about this.
Okay, so as you heard from the crowd, my lovely leadership, it is a new army.
Okay.
We are in a new era of military lifestyle. So everything has been changing rapidly throughout the Army. We have new policies, we have new ways, especially for drill sergeants, of how we train our soldiers, the environments that they live in, and how they're supposed to learn. And the way that they learn now compared to back in the day, I think it's more effective. When in my experience, I've had to deal with a lot of sensitive soldiers, and I think it's just due to the societal changes that we have going on right now. We're very inclusive. It's very diverse. You're seeing more people that look like me, that look like you, in higher positions. So we have to evolve to include everybody, and that's only reasonable. I am a sensitive person. I wouldn't consider myself a highly sensitive person, but I am sensitive. I cry over simple things like Disney movies, musical scores, anything. I see a cute little dog, I'll be in tears. But, just to get back on track, in the Army, we have missions that we have to complete. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that our soldiers are being taken care of. And they are the only ones that are going to be able to execute a mission. So what do? We got to make sure that the environment is sustainable for them. We got to make sure that it's effective for them to survive. We got to take their emotions into considerations, their feelings, what they think. Not do this, do what I say, but why am I doing it? What's the reason behind it, I want to know a reason why I'm doing something. I don't want to just mindlessly do something in order to get a mission done. If I could move 10 boxes by hand, why would I do that if I could just put it on a sked and roll it over? It's things as simple as that. So just making sure that the environment is secure for your soldiers, or in civilians, for your case, just making sure that your workplace is effective for your employees, making sure that their feelings are being taken into consideration is the best thing that you can possibly do. And as a drill sergeant, that's something that I'm still learning every single day. The Army changed very rapidly right after I was like probably the last generation before the Army took some very massive changes, especially in the way that we train our soldiers. It's no longer about just yelling at your trainees and expecting them to do something. It's about sitting down with them, talking to them so that they can understand what's really going on and how we can make the Army a better place. And I love it. I think it's great. I don't have to yell all the time, and they're able to learn better by just talking instead of yelling. So it works out.
So let me get this right. If I'm in boot camp and I'm having a moment and we're in drill, you're going to pull me off to the side and put your arm around my shoulder and comfort me?
I do want to clarify that. So we still have to train our trainees. We still have to make sure that they understand this is the military. We're not here to play. We're not going to, baby you. We still have to be adults, So we still got to follow that. We still got to follow the standard operating procedures. So basic training consists of your red phase, white phase, blue phase. We follow that. Red phase, first 72 hours, well, we're going in. It's go time, 100%. We're not going to shark attack you because we don't do that anymore, unfortunately. But we still got to make sure that we're getting the training done. We still got to break away that civilian side and turn you into a soldier. And that's the only way that the mission is going to get done. The military does not consist of all civilians. It's military personnel and civilians working together. So we got to make sure that we train you effectively and properly.
So that sounds like a really delicate balancing act.
It is,
And
especially
to a self-professed sensitive person who cries over puppies,
yes.
how do you do that?
I think it's with that. That's a good question. So I've had to do a lot of learning over time, and I've had to do a lot of self-reflecting on myself, understanding that right after high school, I was signing a contract to join the Army, and that wasn't going to, and nothing was going to be the same anymore. I had to recognize that I was willingly giving my career, my future, to an organization where anything could happen. And I had to put my trust in that. And I had to recognize that even though I am a sensitive person, I still have to do my job at the end of the day. I still have to put on a uniform. I still got to represent not just this country, but my family. I got to represent myself. And I wasn't going to allow my sensitivity to get in the way of that. I think being a sensitive person makes me more effective in my career because I'm able to put my feet into other people's shoes. I'm able to understand them. I'm able to understand empathy and understand my soldiers. And that makes me a better person. I think if you aren't able to get in touch with your sensitivity or just being able to understand somebody else's emotions, that doesn't make you effective. That wouldn't make you a better leader.
Amen. Yes. Now, Mary, as a project manager, the only thing the stakeholder cares about, and that's the person that owns the budget, is on time and on budget. And you have to deal with folks across all functions in order to get a project done, especially some of the complex projects that you deal with. Now, this is not the military, so corporations handle things a little differently. You can't just tell somebody to get to attention or drop and give me 50, or do they still do that anymore? Drop and give me 50? That's the old Army? Oh man, I got to read up on the new Army. No more drop and give me 50, huh? Okay, so since you can't tell them drop and give me 50, how do you deal with someone who's having a moment and they're could be a bottleneck to being on time or on budget in one of your projects? And any examples that you have, please share as well.
So one thing I can remember, and then just my background, it was, I had to pull myself up by the bootstraps. So it's kind of like, let's focus on work, leave emotions at home. And I can recall one day, one of my colleagues, and then definitely one, build relationships with people. They were at my desk, and they were just going through something personally. They were going through a breakup, which, nothing bad, but he was at my desk crying. And I was very uncomfortable with that. I just listened, so I didn't encourage him to be quiet or to leave my desk or anything, but I shared this situation with a friend, and she reminded me, well, Mary, life doesn't just stop because you go to work. So that helped me to really change my perception of how people show emotion in general. And then I witnessed another similar situation where someone was just openly crying, but everyone was kind of comfortable with that. So that also gave me maybe more awareness that people process emotions differently. And so I just give people that space and try not to judge. When it comes to being in the office, I feel that I can still respond compassionately, but I'm also very direct. So I've told people, listen, there's a perception that this action not being completed is holding up the project. I need you to help me understand what support you need. And I'm careful not to say that you're holding up the project or maybe your department. People definitely respond better when you maybe refer to the object. So you know, they know it's their group, they need to do something, but they're more open to advising, you know what, you know, we had a poor design, so it's our fault. Like, they will take ownership. I've actually had that on a project recently where they said, we made a mistake on the drawing, we were working to redesign it, and then they would say, well, you know, I'm out of the office. So there's kind of that recognition that I know I'm late, these are the things I'm trying to do, but at the same time, you don't want to beat people up like, okay, yes, they made a mistake, but we still, you know, got to support them and getting the project completed. So I feel like having a focus on the work that needs to be accomplished also helps them to maybe take more ownership. Also, I will be the bad guy. Like, oh, your boss, so in so many words, are you making the decision that this is not a priority, or is someone else telling you this is not a priority? I'll go talk to them. Then they're gonna have a conversation about, well, such and such told me this, but I think now that they had a shipment delay, I think I can reprioritize that. So it makes them kind of start having the conversation about how we can all keep management from helping us to do our jobs, which is kind of like what we want to do. And then even from the sensitive perspective, I'll let people, you know, for lack of better words, have their sob story, have their moment, and be supportive, but at the same time, the expectation is we've got to get this work done, and we're not going to not do anything or not change the trajectory of this project because of what just happened here. So my thing is be patient, show compassion, but at the same time still focus on the work that needs to be done. And oftentimes I found that people will help with solutions in that area. Another situation I had that I would just like to share is like an example of dealing with highly sensitive people. I did not realize that we had a group of first-year engineers, and their boss was a bully to them. It was to the point where if the individual was not like performing, I would not copy their manager or ask their manager for support because I did not appreciate how he was like attacking the people. I also shared that feedback with leadership. Like, you guys think he's getting the job done, but he's not. So then when it comes to the highly sensitive people, they're also going to maybe definitely avoid conflict and avoid the perception of feeling like they're not doing a good job. But nothing they did was going to be good because, you know, he was kind of a bully. So one, I definitely needed to step in as a leader and let the business know that we needed to do something different. But then for myself, the young guy would come to my desk and give me an update, and I'm looking. Like, I'm waiting for him to tell me what he's going to do about it. Because you know how they say, don't just tell me that the design is being delayed. Like, tell me what the plan is to finish it. I had to learn to just pause. Like, don't come in with my follow-up question. He is thinking, and he's still learning, and he's accustomed to his boss, you know, being very abrasive and abusive to him. So after the second or third time of me responding differently, I would pause, wait for him to finish. There would be an awkward silence, and I recall the young man saying, "Oh, you probably want to know when I'm going to release the drawing." That would be very helpful, right? So almost like a reverse psychology, but at the same time, I also had to be consistent in how I address the situation, because even when you apply a new methodology for dealing with a highly sensitive person, you're still learning as well, and you have to give it some time to see if there's another way I can approach it, to assess if there's progress. So that's also something to be mindful of. But I definitely feel like towards the end, even if they had an issue, again, they would still tell me just because they know that I would be an ally and that I truly would support them. And then in general, I think another scenario, I had an individual where they were in the details a lot. Even amongst engineers, 20 minutes answering a question with all of the details. I can't do that. We can't do that. So I recall one of my directors giving me feedback, like, "Mary, you handled him really well," and I'm thinking, I didn't do anything special. But for me, because I can be compassionate but confident, I would interrupt and say, hey, thank you for that, but I need to take minutes and I gotta make sure everyone else understands what we're doing. So can you tell me how what you just said impacts, this circuit? Well, actually it doesn't. Oh, okay, so we're gonna move off of that topic. And he was understanding, like he understood that I'm trying to keep the meeting going. And it also gave him feedback that, yeah, that was probably, too long. Also, for that particular person, one method I employed with trying to help him is like prior to the meeting, there was an agenda, and then I would call him and say, hey, the meeting is about this, like give me your story. So if it took him an hour to get out everything he needs to get out, that's an hour he's not gonna feel like he needs to say all of that in the meeting. And then I can kind of help him, okay, so you need da-da-da-da. So in the meeting, I want you to focus on these things, and we need that. And he probably would have never said thank you, that helped me, but at the same time, I feel that he still got a chance to say everything he needed to say. He was heard by leadership, he was not being rushed off the phone, and he was equipped with how to make the meeting with the team more effective. Because sometimes everyone else is maybe judging, and so sometimes an individual can still feel that. So like they're kind of still hustling for their worth in the meeting, but building those relationships and having those conversations also helped help them with maybe being able to perform, differently in the meeting.
So I'm going to remind us of our learning objective, and that is to discover effective methods for managing and supporting highly sensitive employees in the workplace. So I'm hearing some themes here. Be compassionate, empathy, be aware of the environment and the individuals, and take that into account. Sometimes be a counselor, a psychologist, be all of those things are the themes that I'm hearing. Talking about highly sensitive people and looking at this list there, heightened empathy, we'll talk a little bit later about what their passions are, what they like to do. But the arts are one of those things. Highly sensitive people tend to gravitate to the arts and things that they love, sports and things like that. So Reniel, I know you got a side hustle. A fun side hustle, and you deal with folks in the art world. So taking off your Army hat and looking to your other side hustle, tell us a little bit about that and about some of the folks that I'm sure you run into in that space that are highly sensitive as well.
I just want to clarify which
Branding.
the branding.
Yep. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Sorry, there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
She got so many side hustles, she don't know which one I'm talking about. Yes, the fashion world and your branding that you do.
Yes. So thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I forgot to mention was that I am a part-time model. I'm signed with 2 agencies in New York City. Yeah, thank you. And I really enjoy it. It's something I've always wanted to do since I was a kid. And once I actually got involved into pageantry and got crowned, it kind of just took off. So I get to do a lot of cool events, get to meet a lot of cool people, different brands, designers, the whole lots of it. But in that realm, it's very different, very, very different from my military lifestyle. And I get to talk to a lot of different people, whether it's other models or designers, all different backgrounds, demographics, and I have to kind of switch code every now and then, depending on, what kind of environment it is that I'm dealing with. And as somebody who's still new to the modeling world, I get to interact with a lot of people who aren't new. They have a lot of experience in that field. And so the emotions are a bit different because I'm new and they're not, so I have to learn what's going on. But also in that realm, fashion isn't always positive. It's not always a warm space that you're in. You have to know when to be harder or be softer to deal with certain people. one experience that I had was New York Fashion Week of 2021. It was my first New York Fashion Week, and I was so excited. I got signed to my agency, Nina Lubarda NYC. My agent, she was at what I perceived as a great opportunity. It was that my agent wasn't the most understanding, and she wasn't the kindest person. I'll just put it like that. As a black woman, being a black woman my entire life, I understand when I'm not being treated properly. I understand when somebody is treating me unfairly or saying things to me that, are very stereotypical. And as someone who is 5'7", not a little underneath 1 inch underneath the standard modeling height, I still have a lot of trying to find the right word. Yeah, there's insecurity there, and there's also just the issues of not being able to get a certain job just because I'm not the right height, not the right height. And so my first New York Fashion Week, I met with a designer that pretty much told me, I understand that you're here, and I'm glad you're here, but we can't have you here because you're not the right height, and you're not the right color. And that increased my level of sensitivity through the roof. It wasn't even a matter of, this designer was highly anticipated for me. It was the fact that I looked up to this person and I was completely thrown the other way because of very inappropriate comments. So when I joined this new environment of the fashion realm, I had to personally understand that things are not always gonna go my way, regardless of who I seem to think I am, or that I got invited to be a part of this realm. I had to really take a step back and say to myself, this is just a setback. There's always gonna be other opportunities. And then on the flip side of that, now that I'm 3 years into modeling, I get to meet with new models who are just experiencing the fashion world for the first time. They are very sensitive. I feel like if you're in any new situation, you're gonna be a little sensitive to what's happening around you. So I took that opportunity to really mentor them and show them the routes, show them what they need to do, show them who they need to meet. And we don't gatekeep around here. I personally don't gatekeep. So really just showing them around, mentoring them. I'm not sure what else to say about that. I love the fashion realm, but at the same time, it's a very sensitive place. There's always gonna be positive and negative with that, so it's always a little difficult maneuvering through that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I want to move into talking about some of the characteristics, some of the things to identify some of the folks that may be on your team or colleagues. And some of these things they require more downtime, move at a slower pace, more deliberate about what they do. Enjoy relaxation and very high on wellness and well-being, right? Take a little more time again in decision making because they process things much more deeply and think about things. I may think about things from one or two sides, and they think about from 360 sides. Dealing with conflict and criticism is a huge burden. So those might be the sobbers in your office when you let them know very politely that they may be the bottleneck, but then they take it and internalize that and take it very seriously. Vulnerable to overstimulation and social stimuli like horror movies. Very loud environments may be overstimulating for people that are highly sensitive. Tend to draw away from tense and or new situations. As Renio just said, I mean, in new situations, we always have a little bit of sensitivity, but this is overly sensitive to highly self-aware and very creative. So very positive things. We're kind of talking about some of the things that maybe not be as positive because they have this heightened sense of emotion, but some of those folks are some of our most creative folks as well. Deep appreciation of the arts and a rich inner life, internalize things quite a bit and think very deeply about what is happening in their lives. Again, feel things more deeply, pain, pleasure, joy, sadness, etc. Easy to please, that's a good one. They find joy in just the simple things. And it sounds like they may be high maintenance from all of the things that we're sharing as examples, but in the right environment, take very little maintenance at all. So kind of a clue there in how we manage them is creating that right environment so that they can thrive. Prefer a small circle and very close relationships, and then reciprocate that in abundance. So very loyal, very loving, extremely aware of verbal cues and facial expressions. So read the room very well, obviously, because they're highly sensitive. So very cognizant of those situations. Tend to avoid negative over-arousal, negative news coverage, right? I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day. We're all aware of what's happening over in Israel and in Gaza. And we were talking, and she said, man, I just got to turn the news off because it was just so much, the constant coverage and the stories and the weeping and the horror stories about war. War is horror, no matter where it is or how it's happening. Violent sports or films are overstimuli for highly sensitive people. And over stimulation can lead them to withdraw. And I mentioned earlier, they can be misinterpreted as introverts or antisocial. But when they get to an overstimulated space, the only retreat is seclusion. They have to come back, get back into themselves, and process. So I had a brief story here about a colleague of mine, someone who was on my team. I was running a project management office, and we had most of our project managers, we were overworked. You're supposed to usually give project managers more than 4 to 6. Would you say that's about the average you try to keep them at? We were running at about 10. And I was way understaffed. And I had this one project manager who was just amazing. She could just get things done, just nose to the grindstone, and very, very detail oriented. And anything I gave her, she would just get it done. Unfortunately, I put her on a project with a senior partner who I think was overly sensitive himself. And he had a tendency to yell, and the slightest little thing that didn't go right, he would just go off on people. And he's a senior partner, so I wasn't there one day, and she took my place on a meeting with this guy, and it was a bad news meeting, and he just lit into her, let her have it. And I was out that morning, but I came back in the afternoon, and she was sitting in my office, just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing away. And I asked her to tell me what happened, and it was with a group of people on a Zoom call, and this guy in front of 6 or 7 people on the call led into her, yelling, screaming, cursing, all kinds of things, calling her names, blaming her for everything that was not going right that day. And it kind of struck me in that moment when she was describing this, and I started thinking of other situations that didn't go well for her with certain projects, and they always were with those folks who were overly emotional about their project, and it it just upset her so much because now that I know these terms, I could tell she just internalized it way too much and took it very, very seriously. So what did I do? Well, I tended to put her more on projects with people who had similar attributes as her, who were much more easygoing, and some of those projects that she could handle by herself and do in her own space and time. Mary, you handle a whole lot of different types of projects and a whole lot of different types of people. Can you share a little bit around maybe how you have to manage around some of that stuff and still on time and on budget? That's all stakeholders care about, on time and on budget.
So before I answer that question, I must say, as you were talking through some of the characteristics, I identified with some of them. And then I started to think, well, how could that impact the team? And then what kind of support I would need? So for example, I had a manager where he would like to invite the team out for lunch. And he kind of wanted everyone to go to lunch. They would do this every day. So for me, like, sometimes I can present as an extrovert. So when I decline, people think, oh, Mary doesn't like us, she doesn't want to be around us, or there's something else going on. But for me, I need my lunch. I need that downtime. I want to sit quietly and eat. I don't want to think. I don't want to make a decision. But I'm just seeing, like, other colleagues who may present as highly sensitive, they can be experiencing something similar, and it's not necessarily anything negative against other people. That's just how they are managing their own energy. So I just kind of want to share that as an example, and maybe if you are seeing it as maybe something similar as a negative to the team, maybe consider it differently. I did have to get to the point where I just kind of asked for what I needed. That's too much. I can go maybe once a week, and if you could let me know a week in advance, that would really work even better, right? So that's just something that I noted. And then recently, we had a leader in our organization that was involved in, I would say, a medical emergency. They're going to be out for a couple of months. I observed how some of the other leaders, like right below him, handled the situation differently. One leader sent an email out to his team. So he informed everyone immediately. Another leader, even though we had just met with her like 30 minutes prior to, she scheduled a half-hour meeting. And she told everyone verbally and gave everyone the space to maybe share how they're feeling about it. Another leader, new to the organization, his meeting, so all of this happened between like 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Another leader, his came at like 3:30 p.m. I appreciate that he did not send an email and that he also wanted to be personal, but at the same time, you know, timeliness is like by now everyone kind of knows. But even then, that could be a high emotional situation for some of the employees because, you know, work is not always separate from life, and you do empathize with what that individual and their family is going through. So I just kind of wanted to even give those examples of how people may process things differently, and even as leaders, how we can consider how the news and information we're sharing with them can impact them. And I'm one of those people. I do not cry often, but I do not watch the news, and I still have not watched that movie, When They See Us. Like, those movies like that, it's just like too heavy for me. And then even with some things that may happen in the news, like the next day, people may maybe not want to come to work or just be less productive. So, you know, it's real, and I didn't realize that I may identify as a highly sensitive person. So, what was your question? I'm sorry.
Thank you. How do you navigate around some of those characteristics when you, because on time, on budget still matters at the end of the day. That's what you're going to be measured on.
So when I think about some recent situations, I definitely had to step in more than maybe I would have wanted to, because as a project manager, this is your task. I need you to get it done by this date, and you figure out what support you may need. A leader gave me some good advice, like, you know, even when you have that expectation and even maybe providing resources and options for people to maybe work together and solve a problem, you may have to be the one still hold their hands to get it done. Not something I want to hear, but that's the reality. So in that situation, I may just, instead of having that expectation that they go solve the problem themselves, let's have a meeting and work with them and just like help them to work past their differences to work toward a common solution. I had a situation where one function, like they needed to involve with like maybe 4 other cross functions. They would tell me they're doing it, but they want to ask for an update. Obviously, you guys haven't talked, right? And I can recall telling them, no, we're going to meet every day because you tell me it's done, but the way you guys are talking to each other, you guys haven't even talked about the deliverable or how you're going to get it done. But after those daily meetings, and I made sure there was an agenda so you knew before the meeting came, like these are the questions I want to ask, so you prepare how you need to prepare. They started talking, and they realized I'm not asking anything unreasonable of them, but there's an expectation that you work together to like maybe reprioritize projects and get it done. And then again, when something came up, they were definitely more proactive with addressing, like providing that update. And then the last thing I would add regarding that is, excuse me, some people may need more time to process. So in that case, if I had like maybe a critical risk, I wouldn't wait till the meeting to explain how the risk is going to make everyone's job difficult. Maybe send an email, hey, if this happened, like how would you guys overcome it? Just so people can have that time to think about it and be prepared for the meeting. And then also it may be a meeting where instead of that email, you do need to have that 5-10 minute meeting to communicate all of the impacts and things you're concerned about. Give them some time to think about it. I think it's really key to allow people, like be intentional with allowing people the time to consider solutions and to maybe consider other ways they can maybe overcome the different challenges. And oftentimes we don't allow that when we have a 30-minute meeting and we're expecting people to help us solve the problem right now. So definitely that time to process.
Yep. And Renielle, if you can put your Army hat back on, I mean, mission matters. That's the only thing that matters is the mission. And when these situations arise, or individuals who respond in this way to overstimulation, how do you manage around that as a drill sergeant?
Right. So one experience I had not too long ago was back in basic training. I had a class of about, I think we started out with maybe 250 trainees, and you know, trainees get dropped, situations happen, injuries, you know, different things, and we ended up with like, maybe we probably dropped about like 25 trainees, so we were down to like 225. It wasn't too bad of a drop, but starting out BCT, basic combat training, I had this one trainee. She was spectacular, and I mean she graduated spectacular as well, but I noticed that she started out amazing, and then throughout the month, she just started declining. Like there were certain, like something was bothering her, some sort of issue. I mean, I know what the issue is, but I'm just gonna tell the story. But I had to seek her out and find out, you know, what was going on. She's acting out, certain situations. She gets really bothered by certain things that people would say. And I remember at one point, we always go through this with the trainees. We always ask them, is anybody having any like financial issues? Anybody not feeling okay? Is anything happening behind the scenes that we need to be aware of? And one of the trainees, since I was the only female drill sergeant within the unit at the time, I am responsible for a lot of the females, for the female trainees. So the one that was having the issue, she sought me out, and she was telling me behind the scenes, behind closed doors, that she was having financial issues at home. And when we give them the time to actually get on their phones and, you know, check what's going on with their family, call their family members, things were really bad back home. And at that time, I really had to get answers, you know, what can we do to help you out? Because at this point, she wasn't being an effective soldier and the mission still had to get done. So at that point, we had to follow the right routes, you know, get her connected with the financial advisor that works in the basic combat training environment, see what's going on. And it turns out something was going on with her pay, so she wasn't getting the funds that she needed. Her bills weren't being paid. She wasn't fully aware of the entire situation. Her family was going through a financial crisis, and she was one of the people. She decided to go to the military to take care of her family. So if she wasn't being able to take care of her family because she did this sacrifice and went to the military, nothing was going right in her way, you know? That really bothered me a lot, just being somebody who grew up in a poor family. So I had to make sure that I was able to help her out, give her the tools that she needed to get back on track and help her graduate.
Excellent, thank you. And that goes to the support part of our learning objective. We're talking about not just managing people that are highly sensitive, but also how do we support them. And in that situation that I described with the senior partner, he was a level above me. We were peers, but he'd been around since dirt, and he acted like it. He was just a bully. I went to him and told him that wasn't okay. It was an acquisition, so acquisitions are always hypersensitive. He was going to benefit greatly if we acquired this company. So he was acting poorly, and I let him know that. But for me to support my team, and of course, you know, team members talk, so everybody heard about this situation. I should have been able to have project managers at this stage run the meetings and everything go okay, even if there were a few bumps in the road. But in that situation, I didn't let anyone else run those meetings but me. No matter what was on my plate, I was the one running those meetings with that partner there in order to support my team, knowing how emotional this guy was. We got a few minutes left. I'm keeping track of time. If anyone has any questions and or comments, please feel free. They want you to use the microphone because we're recording. So if you don't mind going over there, and I'm just going to pop up the key takeaways here because highly sensitive people can do phenomenal things for your team, but oftentimes we have to set them up for success and support them when overstimulation happens and they're not able to handle things very well. Go ahead.
For your presentation, and thank you for bringing your stories. There's a lot of learning. One question that I have in your previous screen, there was a sentence about very loyal friend, difficult to get close to. I didn't understand the combination, very loyal friend, but difficult to get close to.
Yeah. So the experts say that they have a really close circle of friends, and so because their circle of friends are very close, it's very difficult to get into that circle. But once you are close with them and very friendly with them, they're very loyal. And love is a huge mechanism for those folks. So they won't be friends with everyone in the room, but if you are friends with them, then they'll be very close to you and very loyal throughout that relationship.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
I was thinking about if you're a close friend, how you cannot get.
Okay, no, not that.
Hey there, thank you guys for being here. So I feel like if you're not a highly sensitive person, when you're working in an environment that's very overstimulating or stressful or fast-paced, if you encounter these highly sensitive people or if they work for you, I feel like it might be easy to just say, maybe this career field isn't for you. Maybe you should look for something else. So how do you switch that mindset to, instead of saying, well, maybe they need to find something else, to switch and say, well, maybe how do I work to embrace them better or make this work for them?
Good question. One thing that comes to mind is, I think, just using your example of overstimulation, like I feel like sometimes people just may need tools, right? We kind of have to be that psychologist that they don't get. HR doesn't, they don't come with a guidebook for people. Maybe give them some options, right? Like maybe, okay, I know the person's in the building, but I know they're working over here because it's quieter. Like I feel like regardless of the type of work, like if they are producing the results, again, let's focus on the work that we're trying to accomplish. why would that not be a viable solution, right? But, and I'm not referring to you, but I'm just thinking of some leaders, like this guy who was hollering at one of the colleagues. Some people want it to be where, no, I want you to do it the way I want it done. Well, now you're not providing a conducive environment for people to be successful. And I think sometimes because we don't know, right, we don't have that knowledge, we can be the bottleneck, for lack of better words. And then sometimes it could be that hard conversation about a career, but I would definitely encourage maybe learning more about their sensitivity or whatever emotion or conflict they have, and consider if there are things you could do to help them. Like for me, one thing I did was I do not like getting that little red dot on Outlook whenever an email comes in. And so I figured out, I figured out how to turn it off. And so I try to tell other people that, right? Just give them tools to like help them be successful. But then I also feel like if that's the conversation that needs to be had, we kind of have to have the courage to have the conversation as well.
Mary, I think you hit like 4 of my
Yeah,
my
that was
bullets
excellent.
here all in one. That was awesome. Go ahead, Renia.
Oh, no, I was going to say I absolutely agree with that. I think that's excellent. Just making sure that you give your employees the tools so that they can, get their job done effectively, but also feel comfortable enough to reach out to you with their concerns. And then maybe also just, we have these conferences where we're able to learn new things and discuss highly sensitive people. So just making sure that you go out there and learn, different types of people, how they're able to learn and how you're able to teach them better.
Yeah.
One final comment on that also that I meant to bring up earlier. Sometimes we have to consider how we communicate what we need, right? So like maybe I'm just saying in general, highly sensitive or whatever, but like maybe we can provide more direction about what we need from them, and then we can kind of maybe work toward a solution as well on that.
Yeah, the best managers are psychologists, bartenders, coaches, being able to listen and lend a shoulder to cry on. I mean, think about professional sports. A coach has to know his players inside and out, where they're going to be successful, where they're not going to be successful, and those are some of the things listed here on the key takeaways. And one thing about, if you have highly sensitive people on your team and you have, really complex issues that require people to go deep, that's exactly who you want on that project, right? And sensitivity can be a superpower at work. So if you're a successful manager, you'll know how to use it.
One final thing I wanted to address about maybe it not being a good fit. I had a situation where a job was no longer a good fit. I had like 3 levels of leadership. They had all moved away like to different roles, and people had misguided expectations of my role. And I had to say what support I needed, and I said, hey, I need help with understanding how to engage these people that are 3 levels above me. I don't know how to do that, right? And I remember my manager saying, well, there's no one here that's going to be able to help you to do that. I'm like, okay, so I think I need to go somewhere else. Like, don't sugarcoat it, don't avoid the conversation. Later, so initially I kind of took it as a negative, oh, you don't want me. But no, he was telling me what was true for him. After I left, he left the group like 3 months later. So yeah, that may be the conversation you need to have.
You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you so much for your attention. Thank you, ladies. There is not a session after us, so this room will be open if anyone needs.
Well, that was great. Thank you, Kendall, for helping me So I think this is my first time, like, feeling like I really did this, but I feel like I will be so much more comfortable.
There you go. There you go. Eric will be after you then. Thank you. Eric will find you.
And you made it
So you can do it at Bea. Do you go to Bea too, Renio?
Do I go to bed?
Bea. Black Engineers Year. It's in February. Oh man, you gotta go. Lloyd Austin. Oh, he was there last year. Yeah, he was there. Yeah, everybody's there. So Bea attracts anywhere from 11,000. Half of it is dedicated to the military. Half of the conference is dedicated to the military. Never seen more black generals. I never knew it was that many black generals. I never knew it. Dry as a bone. See you later. Enjoy the conference. You staying through the weekend? Going to the gala?
Yes. Sunday morning.
Good. I'm leaving Saturday. Okay. Yeah, I gotta leave. I'm going to Ohio.